To begin with, let me welcome all of you. Welcome back for those of you who have been here before, and welcome if you are here for the first time. We love you, we bless you, and we hope that this is meaningful to you. As always, I want to share that I am grateful for being able to be here, that we have this opportunity and this freedom here in this country and at this Open Door Center for Spiritual Living place to come in and understand spirituality the way that we do in the framework, from the framework that we each have, and that would be probably a little different for each and every one of us, and we understand this to be a place where we can have those differences and know that we come together and connect from points of commonality anyway. We come here to grow and to learn and to love and to take the things that we get from all of this and to support this world in being a better place for each and every one of us. If your life has been impacted for the good since you came to Open Door, I encourage you to live this out loud by inviting others here on Sunday or to classes, because we understand that that's how we grow. I was thinking about this morning, and I was thinking that I think Frank got here by way of Karina and Tadashi, who now live on the other side of the globe. And in turn, he's brought people into this room and to this teaching, who some of them are here and some of them are in other places, and they're still doing what they're doing. You know, they're still finding meaning in it, and so that's huge. Anytime we impact somebody's spiritual life for the better, we have done something that, I believe is our karma and our dharma, all rolled into one for each and every one of us. I think we get big brownie points, if there are such things as brownie points for being spiritual beings. I think that's a really cool way to do it. So, again, welcome and thank you for being here. So tomorrow is the 240th anniversary of the birthday of our nation. The signing of the Declaration of Independence occurred in 1776. It's a birthday. It's a holy day. It's a holiday. It's an amazing thing. We celebrated it here yesterday for a few minutes through our annual 4th of July cookout. And if you didn't get to come, and even if you did, we still have food left over, so don't go away hungry after the service. We've got food down in the sanctuary hall. Please stick around and have a bite to eat. We would love for what's left to go home with you in your belly today. So I don't want to take it back to my house, so thank you very much. So this is an amazing experience, really, this birthday, this holy day, this celebration of this anniversary. I know that in many circles, and for probably all of us at times, seems to be in vogue or appropriate to kind of throw off on our nation or complain about conditions. There is much to be dissatisfied with, and dissatisfaction, in my opinion, very often is a spiritual kick in the rear that the universe is using to say, then change it, make it different, make it better, make it work more completely and wholly for others. And I believe that is a lot of what is happening in our world, and you'll probably hear more about that as we continue. The truth is, though, that it is really an amazing experience to live in a nation where we practice and so easily take for granted so much of the freedom that we have. The whole idea of a nation where freedom of speech and freedom to practice the faith and the teaching and the beliefs that are ours alone, the opportunity to do that is huge. I really believe that idea came straight out of the bosom of the divine and into the hearts and minds and souls. It showed up as anger. It showed up as refusal to obey. It made for tremendous disgruntlement and lots of problems in a country, that we no longer are from. Okay? Although what they're doing, I don't know what's happening in England right now is really interesting, isn't it? I'm not even going there, okay? But what we understand is that this whole process is huge. And it is truly the process of creativity at work and evolution of the species, from one place to another. And that's how we change. We don't change with ease and grace. Most of us need dissatisfaction and discomfort and pain to make things shift on the inner and on the outer. An example of that in nature is a baby bird. When it is time for that little sucker to come out of that egg, it has to be too big first. It has to be unhappy. It has to be uncomfortable. And it has to get out. It has to do the work. It has to peck its way out. If we, from outside of it, begin to separate that egg to help that bird, we will probably kill it in the process. That's not how nature intended it for it to be. And I don't think that we're any different than baby birds in a lot of ways, okay? Some of us, if we have bird brains, actually get elected to office. Oh my, you knew that was coming, didn't you? Okay. But I'm not going there either. Oh my, okay. But it was out of frustration and pain and discouragement, out of forcible detention resulting in violence, loss, and death, out of insurrection and a desire to practice faith in a life that they found important, that the people en masse became very determined from all of that and said, wait a minute, we don't just know, we feel there's a greater solution. So they left their homes, they left their families in Europe and all around. They risked what was often a fatal journey to come to what we now know as these United States. And they were damn glad to be here too, even if the Indians did scare the tar out of them, okay? Those people that were the mothers and the fathers of our forefathers, they refused to stand up and tolerate religious intolerance. They were doing what we teach and what many spiritual practices teach. They were teaching, they were listening, they were learning, they were walking the practice of learning to trust and heed the truth. That's a capital T, you knew that, right? Within. My beloved colleague, Dr. Arthur Chang, who today is a minister at Founders Church of Religious Science, where Ernest Holmes once was the founding minister, tells us that listening to that inner awareness that lies within the heartbeat of every one of us is what he refers to as the Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs that lead us back to our very own innate urging of the soul. Those forefathers and foremothers were listening to the voices of their souls when they left England amidst just all kinds of havoc, difficulties. They traversed the ocean to come to an unknown world. I can't imagine anything more scary. Of course I threaten at home. I'm like, if this happens in November, I'm out of this country. This is it, okay? I don't know where I'm going because I don't speak any foreign languages yet, but she's on the road, folks, okay? And it's like, but where would you go? And it stops me dead in my tracks from the fear of thinking, what would it be like to get rid of everything I have, okay? It's way too much, even though it's not that much, right? Yeah. Okay? That's the big problem. How I'm gonna drive me and 40,000 cats in an RV. There's really only 4 of them, but when you get a litter box in an RV, it smells like there's about 40,000. Okay. Those people believed in the right to spiritual freedom. They believed in the liberty to do, to think, and to speak as they saw fit, as they felt called to do. And they believed in dying, if it needed to happen, for that exercise to be carried out. Out of the dark, they sought light. They gravitated to solution. Many, probably most, didn't survive the trip. Those that did are a huge inspiration to us. They need to be. We need to look back and say, wow, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, for regardless of what's happened in these United States in 240 years, thank you for what you did, okay? It took a lot, okay? It's often said in science that we stand on the shoulders of giants. Now what that means is that what we are learning today scientifically, we wouldn't be able to understand and internalize if those who are our forefathers in science hadn't done what they did, hadn't realized what they realized, hadn't fought and, worked day in and day out to ascertain certain scientific principles. I believe the same is true when we look back at growth, at the inability of the human spirit to be quashed, okay? Because those guys, those gals, they had it going on. They really did. And isn't it amazing today when we look around that religious freedom is still not the norm in so much of this world? I know you've heard me share this before, but when the name for our parent organization, which is Centers for Spiritual Living, was being selected, and there was prayer and communion and conversation around that, one word that was rapidly set aside was the word church. The reason for that is that in so many countries to this day, when you think church, you might as well think government, because the government dictates the church. Okay? And if you think I'm talking third world countries on the other side of the planet, look at Mexico. Okay? We have a Center for Spiritual Living in Mexico, and they're really careful about what they do, okay? To put a camera up in that facility would probably mean to get them shut down, okay? That original Declaration of Independence is an interesting document. It was signed by 56 people from 13 colonies. Have you ever thought about what happened to those individuals after they did that? Right? They went on to live successful, happy, and prosperous lives, right? I don't think so. 5 of them were captured, tortured, and killed by the British. 12 of them had their homes ransacked and then burned. 2 lost sons that were serving in the Revolutionary War. Another had 2 sons captured during that war. 9 of the 56 fought and died either from the conditions or from wounds inflicted upon them during that battle. They signed, they pledged, they gave their lives, and they even gave their fortunes in their sacred honor. When we think about it, which would you give up first? Your money, your honor, or your life? Okay? I mean, really. They didn't say, well, I'm going to kind of shell game these things, and I'll give you my money, but, don't burn my house down, right? I'll sign this document, but don't expect anything of me afterward. They didn't go away easily, did they? The word liberty is an amazing word. It essentially means the right to do, to think, and to speak according to choice. But much as Don mentioned our friend Dale Allen Hoffman and his teachings of Yeshua in the Aramaic language, a lot of what Dale likes to do is look at the origins of words. If we look at the origin of the word liberty, it comes from the Latin word liber, which means to pour, which further denotes pouring that which one might imbibe in that would allow one to feel very free and flowing, such as your alcoholic beverage. Really, okay? Yeah. So when we are in liberty, we are allowing life itself, that's with a capital L, you knew that, right? Okay? To flow through us, in as and through us. Okay? We are standing in that place of grace. We are standing in a place of poise. We allow that which is complete and cosmic to flow through us. Now, as we live and we move and we run around in our little circles, I don't know about you guys, some days I feel like a hamster on a wheel. Oh my God, that's getting so old too, okay? I'm off this next week, thank you God, okay? Yeah, and me and my boss and everybody else who made that happen. So, what we see is that liberty really has as much to do with the mind as it does anything else. For if we perceive ourselves in bondage, we will be in bondage, won't we? We can be as free as that red-winged bird that Greg sings about. but we won't feel it. If we likewise perceive ourselves as having the ability to think how we choose to think and live how we choose to live within reason, we have that liberty. Yet the mind is a very subtle and tricky tool here. It is what we use to define liberty, and yet it is also the origin from which that which is unlike liberty comes from, doesn't it? Yeah. As soon as we begin to define something, we have categorized it, we have pigeonholed it, we have put a wall or the beginnings of a wall around it. We have said this is what it looks like. Anything that isn't here doesn't equate to that, whether it's liberty or not. So we have begun to close the walls in on that very thing we are trying to define as freedom. Isn't that bizarre? When I think about that, I always think, some of you are old enough to remember Get Smart. Remember Get Smart on TV? And they always ended up in these, I don't know, they look like freaking elevators or something, okay? But the walls were collapsing on them. It was always Barbara Feldman and, what was his name?
Don Adams.
Don Adams, thank you, okay? I got the Don, but I couldn't remember the last name. And the walls were always, they were always going to get crushed by their foe, right? Where do these things come from? And let's make them go away, okay? One who practiced the liberty of the mind in spite of his surrounding conditions was Viktor Frankl. Frankl, you will remember, was an Austrian psychiatrist who was held prisoner at Auschwitz for 3 years. During that time, he lost his entire family. When he was finally released, he healed, and he wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. We still need to do a book study on that book here. I believe it would be awesome. Much of his thought process during his imprisonment didn't center on the conditions, the deplorable behavior of his captors. It fell, or maybe rose, to the love and the inspiration he received in the relationship that he had had with his wife Tilly. Tilly had been taken from his side very shortly after his incarceration. She died at a different camp while he was at Auschwitz. Holding true, he did, to a mindset of love, and that helped him survive the atrocities he experienced. In his writings, he tells us, everything can be taken from us, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. We are always at choice about what we see and how we decide to view it. It's huge. It's huge, and it cannot be taken away from us. Come on, pages. Behave. So, how we practice liberty, how we embody that as a spiritual principle so that when we go from this place out into the world, we experience it. And I don't just mean us, the 10 or 15 here in this room today. I mean us. I mean we. I mean all of us. I mean the world at large. Well, it's important that we know to keep the door open. Isn't that hilarious? Open the door at Open Door. Okay, we have to keep the doors in our minds open to what really is love, to what really is truth, what really is freedom, what really is liberty, and what is wholeness. What does it mean to live those qualities to the best of our ability, moment to moment? And we must, too, I believe, recognize that in these troubled times, as my friend Rob Morgan says, the illness is often the cure. Now, catch this. By that I mean that the illness, the darkness, the violence that we see means nothing. It is only a sign, it is only an indication that there is work to do. It is the necessary motivation and thrust and contrast that we need as a species that provokes us, each one, to taking a deeper stand, to living a deeper spiritual presence in all that we do. It doesn't have to ever be about God. It has to be about what works for us, what is of integrity, what feels right when we listen to that little voice inside. How do we function in those little circles when we get on our little wheels, like my little hamster? I believe it is the truth that as light comes forth, it brings into the dark, into our awareness, into the light, and into our awareness, the darkness. Thus we look around and we see chaos. We see violence on every street. We see programs falling apart. We see politicians that, oh my God, look like possession to me, but I don't really know, okay? And it's huge. We need to begin to view our human trials both individually and on the big screen of social, political, and international affairs. We need to begin to see those troubling events as simply sad experiences that seemed to be necessary so that we might have hallmarks of a greater yet to be, a future which is more whole, brighter, and more loving for every single being and every single species. One simple practice that we can invoke in our daily round, you've heard this before, it is nothing new to you, and yet I encourage you, record it, write it down, is to make a list of the things that we are truly grateful for, and to remind ourselves often of what things might come to mind to be put on that list. That's a lot of times a very rote practice for those of us walking a spiritual path. Yet be reminded that Unity Minister Eric Butterworth tells us Thanksgiving is not a reactionary emotion. It is a causative energy. It isn't the result of something. It needs to be what's back of something so that things change. He says it is an all-effective key by which anyone may meet life as a powerful conqueror. What is it we are conquering? It is that lie, that little voice that we hear when we turn on the TV and see Orlando, or find gang wars in our own area of the world, or hear about horrible things, whatever they may be. It is that lie that says that crap will prevail, because it doesn't have to. It doesn't need to. And if we stand tall, it won't. Cultivating an attitude of gratitude moves our focus from the outward realm of effect, of end result, and it aligns us, perhaps individually, maybe as a collective, ever more completely with divine causality. When we align with that divine truth, we align with liberty. We begin to be an agent of change for good on this planet. You are already agents of huge change. So our job is to remain causal by refusing to get caught up in the drama of any given situation. When we stand clear in that place of causality, we assert ourselves with the truth, with the bottom line, that we are each and every one powerful, creative, spiritual beings, utilizing spiritual principle to create a world, just as Carol said, that is better for every single one of us. When we stand in this clarity, we live in a place of liberty. We stand in free-flowing truth because we realize that no condition, no situation, no seeming obstruction can in any real way be an obstacle to us living freely and fully and completely, being what we came here to be. And we can return to prayer. It is simple. It does not require really even words. Definitely nothing fancy. Although we know our founder, Ernest Holmes, liked fancy, obviously. Okay? We understand in this community that our spoken word, our feelings, and our beliefs, through all of that, we have the ability to bring forth a better life for all. Often in this work, when folks come into classes such as Foundations, we encourage them to select a reading, a prayer, a statement of clarity, and to read that out loud for 21 days. How many of you have engaged in that sort of fun stuff? You know it's harder to amass 21 consecutive days than you know until you do it, right? Yeah, okay. So, today I have copies of a prayer. This is entitled Universal Peace. Do you mind? Thank you. Frank is going to pass those out. This comes from Ernest Holmes. It was first captured on a greeting card that Ernest sent out in 1956. That was before I was born. Okay? That was really a long time ago. And you know, it's always a suggestion. But the homework suggestion, and I will ask next week if I can remember to, is that you weave this into your daily spiritual practice. Okay? That you read this out loud once per day for the next 21 consecutive days. If you miss a day, what do? Start over. yeah. You want to throw something at me by next Sunday, right? Okay. This is a great one. Okay. If you don't like this one, tell me. I've got a godzillion of them because Ernest was one heck of a man with the pen. Okay. I am here to tell you that we, individually and collectively, are powerful beyond measure. From the website peacefulwarriors.net, we are told a day-to-day study of a 2-month assembly in Israel during August and September of 1983 showed that on days when the number of people engaged in a peace-oriented meditation there, okay, when that number was high, the corresponding intensity of the ongoing war in neighboring Lebanon decreased sharply. The other thing that decreased when there were a lot of people meditating was deaths by war in Lebanon. And it didn't just drop. It went down 76%. We are powerful beyond measure. We have only to agree to it. That's a big one. So we're going to close today with a group reading of this prayer. And if you're willing to, if you're capable of it and feel comfortable doing it, please stand. And so here's another piece to this. When we sit and we read and we crumple our little bodies up like this, okay, we don't own our power. Get up off your, well, you know what, okay? Stand up on your 2 feet, okay? Say it in the mirror and look in the mirror and say it like you mean it when you say it, okay? We are powerful beyond measure. And it is our job to start to own that, okay? So this is a universal prayer for the good of all mankind, to bring peace to our hearts, to our homes, to our minds, and to our souls, from today unto and through eternity. So we'll start with Infinite Spirit. You ready? Infinite Spirit, bring peace and goodwill to all peoples. Direct the pathway of every nation into unity, happiness, and prosperity. Remove the thought of fear and greed from the mind of man. Let every thought of hate be turned to love. Every thought of fear be turned to faith. Every thought of doubt be turned to certainty. Every thought of war be turned to peace. Heal the wounds of the world and bring peace upon the face of the earth. We thank you, and so it is. children on their way. You can be seated if you would like to. All right, guys. Look at Logan. He's all red, white, and blue. I love it, honey. That's great. Wow. Miss Courtney. This is Logan. That's darling.
About how caterpillars become butterflies.
Oh, wow.
And we made butterflies, but I did not give very clear instructions to Logan, so we made turkeys too.
Oh, yay!
I think I couldn't finish mine, so I can't make it like this or pom-poms.
The pom-poms
Those
will
are
come off.
off.
Okay,
Where's
so
the
Courtney.
Denise?
Look at that.
It's with her Mia.
Oh,
so don't
okay.
Oh, okay, great. All right. Did you have fun? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would you like for us to bless you? Can we do that now? All right. All right. You can go to your grandma if you want to. That's fine. We'll bless you over there. All right. Are we ready?
Yeah.
We love you. We bless you. And we know you are perfect.